Welcome back. We're having, this, quite interesting conversation before the cameras, came back on us. So agriculture is increasingly seen as a vital driver of economic growth in Lagos and, of course, other parts of the country and globally, despite the state-heavy urbanization. Remember, the Lagos state government launched the Lagos State Agriculture and Food Systems Roadmap in 2021, and that will last till 2025 to address various challenges in the agriculture sector. It is also to promote sustainability and leverage agriculture as a significant driver of economic growth. So it is on this premise we will begin today's edition of The Conversation. Welcome again. We have a critical stakeholder. Yes, you will find out why I call him a critical stakeholder seated with us, Abiodun Olorundero. Hey. Is the MD Platino's Farms as we discuss agriculture as a panacea for economic growth. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Okay, before we came back, I was asking you like that. Looking at Lagos, Lagos is surrounded by water, and of course, the urbanization. How can agriculture, contribute to the economic growth of Lagos?
Thank you very much. Again, so I'll start by generalizing by saying that before the advent of oil, right, agriculture was our mainstay in this country. In fact, it contributed well over 60% to our GDP at the time. Let's also not forget that Lagos was the mainstay, was the capital city of the country at the time. Now, with the urbanization, it means that there's a lot of population in the city, right? I also understand that the bulk of the food that is produced in this country, comes to Lagos because of its population. Now, Lagos is surrounded by water. Now, what that means is that if we, as Nigerians or Lagosians, are not sufficient, are sufficient in food, it means that it's easy for us to even move our food, out of this country via waterways as next exporter of agricultural produce. I know that there's a lot of support from the Lagos state government towards fish farmers, in the Ekpe Axis area where there's water. But I honestly think that we are not doing enough, but we can do better. I know that, despite that, Lagos itself doesn't have a lot of agrarian land, but past administration in Lagos State have actually made some efforts. I remember, I can't remember if it was under Governor Ambode or Fashola himself, who went as far as Ogun State or your state to acquire land, long lease, for farmers who are Lagos residents, such that they can cultivate crops like cassava, maize in those communities and then bring them down to Lagos for processing. So I think that would happen. And what those governors saw, and the current one is saying is that because of the population that we have in Lagos, rather than depend so much, on the other parts of this country, farmers within the city can, despite our constraint with land.
Say that you mentioned a major challenge here in Lagos, which is agrarian land. Can it still be achievable?
Yes, it's still achievable because, that's why those governors went ahead to get land in those states where land is, sufficient. So your farmers within Lagos can go as far, cultivate, and then bring them down here. I know that, there's a rice milling plant, out there in Imota, and that's a good initiative, even though we don't have so much land, right, to cultivate land here, to cultivate rice here, but the raw materials can be brought from wherever it's being cultivated and then processed here, and then it stays here. So it's the excess that we have that we cannot begin to now ship out of the country, and Lagos becomes an exporter of processed rice.
Okay. So as a farmer, can you share your experience? How has it been in scaling up your agricultural activities?
Okay, so interestingly, I started as a poultry farmer right here in Lagos. And the idea then was that, chicken, because I'm a great supporter of advocate of eating quality food. Now, we didn't realize that, the bulk of the chicken that comes to this country comes from across the border, and we cannot guarantee its quality.
So we don't even have enough chicken.
That's correct.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria, no, we don't. So, I mean, bulk of the chicken that people eat in this city come from across the border. I mean, smuggled in, for that matter. I mean, some of those smugglers also go as far as going through the bushes, spend days on the road before you get it. So we said, okay, I mean...
But I want to ask, why,
okay.
why? We see chickens everywhere, you know.
No, if you want to buy, they'll tell you, is it orobo?
Yes.
Or,
yes.
Or what's the other word they call it? There's another name they call it. Is it Nigerian or foreign or something like that?
Yeah. So those orobos, I mean, the bulk of it are actually shipped into this country from the land border, as a matter of fact. In fact, there's been some videos that circulated in social media in the past, which are also not verified, where we have seen people put syringes, into those processed chickens to make them look big.
Yes,
and that's what we consume in the city. Yeah. So the idea of me going to the poultry at the time was, okay, we can produce quality chicken, right, whereby our people can have access to, was why I went to the, but again, one of the major challenge I encountered at the time was that, I mean, when you sell to the market women, right, they want to buy on credit, okay, and you have to beg for it to be paid. Guess what? When you feed your chicken today, it costs you more to feed it for another 1 week. Those women want to come back again and another 1 to 2 weeks to buy at the same rate, actually, but which doesn't, you know. But so what I now did at the time was I now had families that I would process for and I would supply to. But on the long run, okay, realized that wasn't sustainable. The costs implication of feeding those birds went high. I'll give you an example. One major raw material for feeding chicken is maize. Yeah. Now, maize at the time I was doing poultry was going for about 40,000 naira per tonnage, 45,000. But you know, today, can I shock you that a tonnage of maize sells for about 800,000 naira? And I'm talking, that was 2015, 2016. Today, yes, it's about 800 to 5,000 naira. So it means that, yes, it means that running poultry business in this country or livestock, I mean, is more challenging than it was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
I thought running a poultry business, you know, it's like buy one get one free, because when you have your poultry, you definitely have eggs. Yes. So you have two products to sell. Yes. So why is it not? I still see it as a more viable, you know.
Okay, so business. Again, I mean, you know, there are different species of those birds. Okay, they're the laying ones, they're the ones that give you meat. Those are the broilers, and we have the cockerel. Now, it's the layers that give you the eggs. Yeah. Now, guess what? The quality of feed you give to those chicken determines the egg that they give to you. Yeah. Now, those chicken must stay with you for at least about a year before you can say you're disposing them off. You now sell them off as old layers, right? So it's the eggs that you make at that point in time that you can only sell. So broilers are another breed on its own, right, that do not lay eggs, right, strictly for chicken.
And of course the cockerel.
And the cockerel. Yeah. I mean, the cockerel, I mean, they have longer lifespan, 6, 7 months before they are ready for the market. So, and that's just one of the challenges, right? Quality of the day-old chicks you also get also matters. I mean, I've bought day-old chicks before that. I mean, more than 40% of those day-old chicks died. Right. Reason because the hatchery where those birds were gotten from, I mean, had issues. But guess what? They sold to the farmers, and then you raise, and then on a daily basis, you begin to lose them in numbers till they die off. So there are a couple of, I mean, as far back as, I think, early 2000, during the Obasanjo's, my father also had a poultry farm. I mean, and then the poultry crumbled because there was something called bird flu, a major disease. I mean, that we have not still been able to, I mean, find solution to. I mean, the solution, let's not creep into once it creeps into your farm, that is the end of, I mean, your birds begin to die in bits on a daily basis till. So what we did at the time was we had to start slaughtering them. And I mean, it was a lot of work. I mean, once you come to us at the time, as a guest, you must walk, because, I mean, we are processing and all of that. So unfortunately, there was no insurance policy. And that was how my father, you know, shut down. It was years after that I had to revive, and then before I eventually had to suspend for crop production.
This will also lead me to another question, post-harvest losses. It's a significant concern for farmers. So aside from the things that you have listed, what other things can also contribute to post-harvest losses for farmers?
Right.
And are farmers really aware on how to handle these cases when they come up?
Okay. So one major challenge in the agric industry across board today is orientation or education of farmers. Now, a lot of farmers are not enlightened. As a matter of fact, it's just of recent that we begin to have younger people coming into.
That's why the younger people, you know, that are now interested.
Just coming in.
Yeah, just coming into agriculture.
Now, I would say that the facilities, infrastructures are still not there. Now, I will tell you for a fact that the bulk of the roasted corn or boiled corn that you eat in the city today, in Lagos today, are not fresh. Right? I mean, they are harvested about the earliest one you get is maybe 24 hours, right? Yes, 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours. And that is if the vehicle does not, fumble on the way before it gets here. And then by 3 days' time, that's what you eat. So, I mean, what then happens is that ordinarily if the infrastructure was, if we have good road infrastructure, we have good transportation network, okay, there will be no reason why, on storage facilities. I remember we used to have a farm in Oyo, and I remember that when we brought in our grains, our seed for planting, we had to buy a refrigerated container as a way to preserve the quality of those seeds for us to plant. So if farmers had access to storage facilities like cold room, okay, you can put in your unsold crops like tomatoes, pepper into those facilities, paying the time that they'll be ready for sale. So, I mean, the challenges in this industry are enormous.
So, you mentioned earlier that, you know, a lot of young people are coming into the agricultural sector. So how can, you know, agriculture reduce unemployment in Lagos and, of course, Nigeria as a whole, particularly among the youth?
Right. That's a very good question. I mean, I think that sometimes when you ask me, I do not see any other sector that can absorb a lot of people, unemployed people, other than agriculture. I mean, one of the things Lagos State can do, and I think that the current commissioner seems to be doing a lot, but there's still a lot more to be done. Yes, she's doing a lot. And of course, the agri-sector has a lot of value chain, right? From production to mechanization, to irrigation, to transportation, to marketing, right? And these are various value chains where the youths can be gainfully, Now, the first thing, one of the important things is that proper training, okay, needs to be done. Now, a lot of people go into agriculture after reading on Google, after reading on the internet, and trust me, there's a lot that that needs to be learned outside of internet, right? So the first thing is that Lagos State government or any other government needs to train a lot of young people. And guess what? There are a lot of professional people out there today that can give first-hand experience training to young people who are interested.
Lagos State has, you know, some training platforms for young farmers and aspiring farmers. Of course, correct. Lagos State cannot do everything.
Yeah, that's correct. But I think the number of people they get to train part-time is limited. I mean, you know, so we need to do something around massive training, and after the training, now you don't just leave people after you have trained them to just go back home, right? Again, the question is that in what area are they being trained? Now, the agri value chain has multiple segments. Okay, there's the mechanization. I give an example. I mean, our farm at a point in Oyo, I mean, you know, that we had to sell because of land expansion. We had to go as far as Oyo. Yes, I mean, so expansion took us as far as Oyo in 2017, and we brought in some machines from the US, but guess what? When we needed to maintain those machines, it was difficult. We went as far as the north, Kaduna, Niger State, to bring in mechanics. In fact, the first set of mechanics that were employed came all the way from Niger State. Now, unfortunately, we then realized that their knowledge was limited. Guess what? We now went as far as Uganda to bring in a mechanic. I mean, a mechanic, not an engineer. I mean, not an engineer, but a mechanic, just to be able to put, because we didn't have, I mean, human capital, I mean, capacity to be able to fix those machines. So it means that Lagos also needs to intensify effort in training people on how to manage and maintain machines. Operators for tractors, okay, they are limited. I mean, some of the people you find today are older people, and they are already fading out. So Lagos State needs to to put in segments different training courses in different value chains, right? Production, poultry, and so until Lagos State, I mean, it's important that they put in those segments, and people can now show their areas of interest, right? You want to go into production, and production also has multiple areas, right? Until I realized that beans is as expensive as buying a 100 kg bag for over 200,000 naira, I never planted beans. But today I'm planting beans. You know, because I really realized that it's a need, you know, for us. So people can now, I mean, because that's the way to bring a lot of people into that sector, right? You want to go into beans production, you want to go into rice production, maize production, you want to go into mechanization, you want to go into irrigation, you want to go into marketing, and also, so that is one of the areas where I think that Lagos State can actually do a lot to reduce the number of unemployment in the agri sector.
Okay, let's talk about access to agricultural inputs, like seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, livestock. How easy or difficult is it for smallholder farmers to have access to these things? And then how can government help? I know that Lagos State government is doing.
Did you mention seeds?
Yes.
Okay.
Seeds, yes.
Seeds, yeah.
Yes. So how easily available? Is it so easy for them to have access to these things? And then the quality of these things, does it have an impact on the produce?
On the product,
so unfortunately, today it's getting more difficult. Now, I can tell you today that, I mean, you do not have access to maize, as common as maize is. I mean, the last 1 month thereabout, quality maize seeds have been very scarce. I mean, very scarce. So the seeds you find in the market, I mean, I've also called the nuts at some point in time, and they were telling me all the plants right now they are just OPV. OPV seeds are. If you go to the market today, go to any of the Okedo markets, tell them you want to buy dry maize. The ones that people use in making pap and whatever, you can replant them. But those are not quality hybrid seeds. Right?
But if you plant it, will it yield?
It will germinate, but the yield level is low, will be very low. For example, I mean, much more developed countries today are getting 7-8 metric tons per ton, on 1 hectare. Today, Nigeria's yield average is around 1 ton, 1.5 tons, maximum 2 tons. And there are various reasons why we are there. So I think that accessibility is getting difficult. Same for fertilizer, right? As of 2020, we bought fertilizer away from One in Port Harcourt. Landing cost in Lagos was about 5,300 naira. Of course, it was subsidized under the last administration. But prior to that, we were buying at around 6,000, 7,000 naira. But today, 50 kg bag of fertilizer sells for around 50,000 naira. I mean, from 7,000 to 50,000.
This will have impact on the
yes, and for you as a farmer in Lagos, the easiest location where you can buy fertilizer. Guess what? I go as far as Ibadan to buy fertilizers. If you go to some of the ministries, and I think Lagos, they need to do a lot more. I've visited agric offices around Okoba here, and you most likely not get the full bag because smallholder farmers probably buy in small quantities, which is not enough. So it might be difficult for you to get full. So I go as far as Ibadan, sometimes order from the north, to get here. So I think that Lagos, that's also one of the areas where Lagos can create employment, right? I mean, because again, the bulk of the inputs we use today are also imported. Our chemicals are imported from the US, from Europe, from China, right? And our research institutes are not doing enough. Either government needs to fund them or government needs to give them KPIs to ensure that, you need to come up with various chemicals, inputs, and seed. Watermelon seed, farmers are looking for watermelon seeds as I speak to you. They are not readily available. And in cases where you find that because of scarcity, the prices now go up. Last year, you probably buy about 500 grams of, a particular variety of seed for 15,000, 18,000 naira. But today, 100 grams sells for like the same amount of what you buy. So, government needs to do a lot more, invest in research, invest in, subsidy in farm inputs is not a bad idea, right? Because if farmers have access to cheap, and quality inputs, it means that the end result will also be favorable to the end users. It means that we can get to buy our foodstuff at a cheaper. I mean, look at what the commissioner is doing and the governor doing in Lagos State with food. Sunday there was a I mean, it's a fantastic government bringing in some subsidy. But I think that the subsidy needs to start from the point of input, from point of production, such that it's it reduces the
exactly.
So
okay, you talked about feeds being about 800,000 naira.
Just maize, yeah.
This chicken feeds. So
yes.
At least I have an idea of what they eat. Are they locally produced or they are also imported?
So interestingly, some of the components are imported, but some are locally produced. I mean, what are the components of the feed? Maize, soybeans, and a couple of other things. We plant soybeans here, we plant maize here, we plant so I think the bulk of the component, but the challenge is that we seem to be competing with animals. Humans are competing with animals, right? Because it's the same maize that I will use to take my tuwo, my pap, and whatever. It's the same maize that the chicken needs to use, right? I mean, to compound the feed for the chicken. Same soybeans as well. Some of us take soybeans, soya milk, and all of that. It's the same soy. GNC granite cake that the chicken and livestock also require. So the competition is there. Unfortunately, the challenge is that at the base, which is a production, at the production level is still very, very low. So that's why when some people come to me and talk about processing, I say, see, the truth is that there's a lot of shortfall at the production level. We need to increase our production before we can say we are processing. I mean, processing is not a bad idea, right? But we must increase what is happening at the base. Because again, in the advanced country today, there's a lot of raw material that's been gotten from corn, from maize, ethanol and all of that, which is also being used as CNG to power vehicles right now in Brazil and co. But guess what? Our own corn here today, I guess even for corn, even for maize, there's a competition between people who want it roasted, people who want it boiled, people who want it for pap, right? I mean, so there's a lot. I mean, because before you can make pap from maize, it has to be dry.
Okay, she knows about that.
Yes,
it has to be, so it has to be dry. It has to be dry. It means that when your corn reaches full maturity in about 70 to 80 days, I mean, you either want to leave it, the farmer either leaves it, or you sell it fresh and make your quick money. As against, it means that the process of leaving it dry, you're going to lose some stock. Okay, because birds will come. I mean, if rainfall comes with it, it begins to, so there's a lot that needs to be, a lot of education needs to be done, a lot needs to be done in that sector.
How much will collaboration now play, between government, the farmer, and private sector? How can that, come and enhance economic growth?
Right. So a lot of collaboration is required. Now, one of the things and I'm going to have to chip in this example here, our experience. Myself and a couple of young guys who live in the US, in 2017, came together, put resources together and said, okay, let's go into grain production because we see that there's a need. Because we also import maize from the US, from Europe. We see that there's a need. And then we went as far as, we kept looking for land. Lagos, there was no land. We needed about 500 hectares of land, which is over 1,000 acres. So there was no way Lagos could help us. So we went as far as Oyo, and we got around Oyo, around Iseyin axis. But guess what one of our challenges was that on a monthly basis, we were paying about $500,000 naira on security just to secure our farms, such that cows will not encroach our farm. So we have to be securing our farm both day and night. Now, as farmers, as private investors, we have done our part. We bought the machines, okay? We got the land, we brought in the inputs. Now, government just needs to provide security for us, which is also lacking. And that's why we're here today. There are a lot of farmers in the north.
Farmers headers clash.
Exactly. And this is reality, such that, so government needs to do a lot more. And we are not saying that government should give us everything. We are saying that, the basic things, provide infrastructure, provide the land, provide the security, and then the private sector can come in, and then the markets. The market will always be available. In cases where there's probably excess, we can then store. I was okay. I mean, because government has in the past, government has built silos, you know, which is also an area where I think Lagos State government can also tap into, right? I mean, get these finished products from the farmers. While I mean, right now tomatoes prices have actually come down. Okay, compared to what we was, you know, you know, because I mean, May, June is usually the peak of tomato because of the rainfall.
But there's never been this bad. Anyway, that is a conversation.
I mean, yeah, because there's never been this bad. But I'll tell you that between that period, price usually goes up because tomato doesn't do well in the rainy season. So May, June, I mean, the prices go up, but not as bad. But you know why it's now bad? It's because the cost of transporting those things. Diesel was about 200 naira per liter about a year, 2 years ago. Diesel sells for about 1,200. Those trucks that brings those food items here,
on diesel.
you know, on diesel. And so there's a lot that the government needs to do. I mean, I hear there's a fertilizer distribution, fantastic, but it's also not enough. You know, 1 bag of fertilizer, 2 bags will not go. Rather than give farmers this fertilizer for free, subsidize it. Okay, if fertilizer is selling for, I mean, the price today is ridiculous. Okay, 50,000 naira for 50 kg. It was 6,000, 7,000 just about 4 years ago. Right, the prices are ridiculous. So government needs to do a lot more. Okay, I mean, I don't care. Subsidize food. Subsidize the raw materials. You know, whatever. Power, exactly. You know, which is a song. And it gets annoying when I hear people, I mean, sing this song in Ebian Power. We know, but government needs to do a lot more. Private sector, and then even we as individuals, within. I mean, if you have a house, you have a land. I mean, that you probably have a garden in your house. Cultivate something. You know, tomato. I went to visit my dad about a week ago. You showed me where he's planting his vegetable to a wedu.
They said it that we all should start.
Yes, I mean, no matter how little. So he says he doesn't buy vegetable anymore. He doesn't buy, I mean, all of that. You know, so again, we can do little, I mean, within the comfort of our zone.
They call it cottage farming.
Exactly.
Farming. We used to have that back in the days.
Exactly, our gardens here.
A lot of people don't do that anymore.
I mean, real estate has taken over everything. Everybody's flooring their compounds now when you ought not to.
Anyway, whatever we do, we shall know that we will eat. It's been an interesting conversation with you, Abiodun Olorundero, managing partner, okay, Brasino's Farms. And we've been talking about agriculture as a panacea for economic growth. Thank you for coming. We did not finish this conversation. Maybe we're going to invite you some other time so that, because we've not talked about fish farming, we've not talked about cattle rearing. So many things in agriculture that we have not, touched. We'll go on a short break now. When we come back, the conversation continues.
Let the conversation continue. Let the conversation continue.